everybody, around the nation right here, QIT Nation. I'm your host, Jeff Waldorf. Welcome to the show. Got a great show for you guys today. We're going to talk about Afghanistan. Wonderful. We've got Afghanistan. We're going to talk about Steve Bannon and now that he's left the White House. Then a collection of different stories, basically illustrating how much of a man-baby President Trump is. Then we're going to talk about the Secret Service, and then Steve Mnuchin, his wife, getting in a little bit of pushback from something she said on social media. So, very interesting. Got a great show for you guys today. Hopefully you stay tuned for the next hour as we go around the nation for some of the best stories and progressive political commentary from around the web. All right. Before I get started in this wonderful Tuesday show, we are going to read off some patrons, patreon.com/TYTNation. Let me read some here. We have Peter Lund, Billy Joe Kane, Serena Young, Jillian McCauley, Christopher Spears, Samuel Schaefer, Prince Frederick, Kyle Henshaw, Peter Willett, Sean Hubbard, Malik Hosier, Rhonda Miller, Vikram Tevaraj. Let's see, some people that we haven't read before. Don Shorey, Seth Martin, Steve Jones, Greg Heinzman. Bring some other ones here. I feel like I've read all these before, but nonetheless, thank you. Sean Hughes, I don't think I've read your name before. Shan Baker, I don't know if I read your name before. Let's see. Again, there's a lot of names. So it means there's a lot of people who support the show, and I thank every single one of you, each and every one of you, for helping to keep independent progressive media on the air. So thank you very much. You're awesome. Now, one more thing. You can talk to us during the show, using the hashtag on Twitter, TYT Nation. I'll be checking that. And if you want my comment, if you're not on Twitter, and you actually and you do want to help the show, and you might not be a patron, or maybe you are, and you want you want your comment read on the air, you can always go and use the YouTube Super Chat, which is super cool. That helps the show, and it makes it so that I can see your comment, and so I can read it off on air. Again, super cool. So if you want to help the show, use that. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't already, share the stream. All that stuff, which is awesome, and it helps me immensely. So, all right. Now, with all that, let's get into the stories. Let's talk about Afghanistan. Now, yesterday, President Trump made a key announcement about Afghanistan and America's role in it going forward into the future. So, basically, what did he say? We're not winning? Well, that would be true. 16 years and trillions of dollars later, Afghanistan is still a mess. So, yeah, I would agree. We are not winning, and he said so before. Okay, so point out the obvious, right? Now, the question, I think, that was in a lot of people's minds because of this disaster of war, is, okay, well, look, President Trump, he promised to do something different. He was very critical about what's going on in Afghanistan, and he considered pulling out. So is that what he's going to do? Is he going to pull out? Are Americans finally going to leave Afghanistan? Well, it turns out the answer to that is no. Nobody knew Afghanistan was going to be so hard, right? I think we all knew. So, look, I understand that there was a lot of hope from certain people who may not have supported Trump, but saw this anti-war position and was like, oh, well, hey, man, look, we knew we were going to get more war with Hillary Clinton. I'm not disputing that. But there's a possibility of less war with Donald Trump. Well, that turns out to be, of course, false. Last night, he crushed those hopes, making his announcement in front of a crowd of U.S. soldiers. President Trump essentially outlined his plan for Afghanistan, and guess what that means? It actually means more boots on the ground. More boots on the ground, not less. So we're not pulling out of Afghanistan. We're putting 4,000 more troops on the ground. to fight the Taliban. I thought I thought he wanted to pull out. Actually, look, again, I mentioned how that was his previous position. In fact, it's been going by, that was his previous position going back several years. In 2012, he said the war was a total disaster and we were wasting so much money. 2013, he said we should leave Afghanistan immediately. And during the election, he said pretty much the same thing. He criticized the war. We need to get out of there. What are we doing? We're wasting our money. We're not getting money from mineral rights. Again, Trump thinking about, let's just steal all their natural resources. That'd be a great idea. But of course, all of that, except for the stealing of the natural resources, he's totally in that. That's pretty much over with. His anti-war stance is no longer anti-war. In fact, let me give you a quote here from last night. He said, my original instinct was to pull out. And historically, I like following my instincts. But all my life, I've heard that decisions are much different when you sit behind the desk of the Oval Office. In other words, when you're president of the United States. I think we got what you were saying. Yes, of course, it's different. But at the same time, you promised to do something different. You promised to do something different when it came to the war. Apparently, no, you're not. What he's saying now is, hey, man, look, yeah, I promised to be an anti-war president when I got into office. And then I found out how awesome war is and how that actually helps my approval ratings when I bomb people. So, hey, let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing what we're doing, what we've been doing for the last 16 years, and drop more bombs in Afghanistan and waste more American lives. Now, withdrawal, Trump said, would dishonor the U.S. troops who died in Afghanistan and could create a vacuum that would allow terrorist networks to expand, as they did after the full withdrawal of U.S. troops in Iraq. And here's the thing, right? Whether we're there or not, there will be terrorist networks. And look, one of the reasons that they still exist in Afghanistan is because we're there. Because we're a foreign power occupying their country. So what he's saying is, look, man, I want to leave, but we can't because terrorists. We can't ever leave because of terrorists. That's what that means. We are stuck there in perpetuity to the end of time. Because if our goal is to get rid of terrorism, well, you can't bomb terrorism out of existence. It's an idea. We can't end it that way. And because of that, again, at least when it comes to the Trump administration, we're going to be there for the end of time. We continue this disastrous war, started by George W. Bush, continued by Barack Obama. And again, I've had a lot of frustration towards him for continuing the Bush doctrine. And now, of course, it's going to be embraced by Donald Trump. He is now bent to the military-industrial complex. He's surrounded by generals. And they all love war. And they all tell him, hey, Donald, you know what would be great? If you continue to attack Afghanistan. If you continue to help our defense contractor friends, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and the other companies. This is bad. On the issue of Afghanistan, look, we made a mess. I understand we made a mess. But you know what? We can't fix that. We have to get out. We have to get out. We got to go. We got to go. We're not going to make the situation better. We're going to make the situation worse. Worse for us. More blood, more treasure. How much have we already wasted in Afghanistan? Way too much. And we're not going to end terrorism. We destroyed the Taliban. We destroy Al-Qaeda. What's going to come next? Something worse. That's what will come next. You can't end this. This is an endless cycle of violence. And it's just going to continue. So, but he promised more attacks. We're going to attack more. We're not going to tell you. We're not going to tell them who we're attacking. And we're not going to give a lot of specific details. But you'll know. We'll attack them. So you're going to attack them. You're going to increase troop levels. So basically what we have is another surge. Okay, we have another surge. And here's some other key points during his speech that he addressed. He said that he would give military commanders the authority to act in real time and expand the authorities for U.S. armed forces to target terrorists and criminal networks in Afghanistan. So he's taking off the gloves, right? He said these killers need to know They have nowhere to hide. That no place is beyond the reach of American might and American arms. Retribution will be fast and powerful. Of course, that's him trying to be a strong man, of course, and the Republicans love that. And all the people that support war, they love that kind of talk. So I wonder if they're going to say on CNN, this is the day he became presidential. You know it's coming. He said, our troops will fight to win. We will fight to win. Wait, what does that even mean? You don't fight to lose. No, you fight to win. But unfortunately, this is not a war that you can win. It's not a traditional war. But anyway, he says, from now on, victory will have a clear definition. Well, I'd love to see that. Attacking our enemies, obliterating ISIS, crushing Al-Qaeda, preventing the Taliban from taking over Afghanistan, and stopping mass terror attacks against America before they emerge. Oh, that's sounds like a wonderful Christmas list. It's too bad that that's not going to happen. You cannot bomb that into oblivion. You cannot bomb an idea into oblivion. It doesn't work. The way that we've been fighting terror creates more terror. You're creating more terrorists, especially when you bomb innocent people, which the Trump administration has been doing far more than the Obama administration. I went after the Obama administration for their drone attacks that, yes, killed a lot of civilians alongside of terrorists. I don't care about killing the terrorists. Kill all of them. I don't give a fuck. But if you hit innocent people, you're going to create more terrorists. We shouldn't be going down this road. We need to get out. We need to get out. We're stuck there for no reason. Here's another quote. He says, we want them to succeed, talking about Afghanistan. But we will no longer use American military might to construct democracies in faraway lands or try to rebuild other countries in our own image. Those days are now over. We are not nation building again. We are killing terrorists. Now, look, that is actually one single thing that I'm like, well, hey, at least we're not doing the Bush doctrine of at least trying to rebuild another country. No, he says, look, man, he's being honest. For one time in his life where he's being honest. He's like, we're just there to kill people. Well, that's what we've been doing all the whole time. We're just there to kill people. Well, at least you're fucking honest. All right. But here's the thing. Again, that whole strategy, it's repeating what we've already done. Okay. And the more you take off the gloves of the military and say that, okay, you have your own discretion, right? Well, you go down a dangerous road. And there is no doubt that there will be even more civilian casualties, which will lead to more terrorists being created. And so at some point, you got to ask, why are we still there? Why are we still there? Well, we got to kill the terrorists. Got to kill the terrorists. They're attacking America, right? No, they're not attacking America. That's the thing. They're attacking our troops, yes, and that's terrible. But you got to look at the reason. We've invaded their country. Now, I'm not saying the Taliban are great guys. They're terrible people. I'm not saying that they're innocent, okay? But look, most Afghanis there are innocent people. And most of them have no idea why there are American forces there. They think we're invading them again, just like the Soviet Union did back in the 80s. They never heard of 9/11. All they know is that the Americans are here. They're attacking us. And now there are certain people that are fighting back. What are we doing there? What are we trying to accomplish? We got to go. Now, Trump says, someday after an effective military effort, perhaps it will be possible to have a political settlement that includes elements of the Taliban in Afghanistan, but nobody knows if or when that will ever happen. It's never going to happen. We're not going to leave Afghanistan. This is endless war, endless killing, endless terror, and look, endless amounts of money being given to the defense contractors. That's it. That's Trump's plan. And as a bonus, he just threatened Pakistan. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Wonderful. Great job. Great job. Look, there's no clear solution here. Okay? The best solution would have to have never invaded Afghanistan to begin with. We can't go back to that. But look, future note, right? Hey, before you start invading countries, maybe you should consider not invading countries. That'd be fantastic. But that said, we got to get out. There's nothing we can do to fix the situation. We got to get out. We got to get out now. I can guarantee that this will not go well. After Trump leaves office, whenever that will be, the situation in Afghanistan will still be a disaster. Why? Because, again, we're doing the same thing. The same thing that Obama did, the same thing that George W. Bush did. It didn't work then. Why would anyone ever think that it would work now? You cannot solve everything by dropping bombs, though sadly, President Trump, aided by his military advisors, by the generals that he surrounds himself with, we're going to continue to try. Okay. Move on to the next story here. Now, after Trump's firing of Steve Bannon, which happened last week, which I was actually honestly kind of surprised, given his adherence to the base, Bannon and his allies have now promised war against the White House. And as said, when he went back to Breitbart, and one of the first things he says is, "I'm where I belong. I'm free. Now I've got my hands back on my weapons." Sources close to Bannon even said Steve is now unchained, fully unchained. Another said he's going nuclear. You have no idea. This is going to be really fucking bad. Well, bad for who? Well, that's a good question. I think for the administration, I think that's the answer. Especially since, of course, from talking with his friends and with people who have asked him, he feels like he lost the White House to the Democrats. Now, that's kind of hilarious, but also sort of true in a way. I mean, look, Ivanka was a registered Democrat. Gary Cohn, he's given money to the Democrats. He was a Democratic voter. So basically what you have is the Democratic establishment starting to take charge in the White House. Now, for somebody like Steve Bannon, that is the worst possible outcome. And look, for people who are against the establishment, period, and this means progressives as well, that's also a bad thing. Okay? But now you might be wondering, well, why is that a bad thing? I thought the Democrats are the good guys, right? No, not necessarily. And look, they haven't been able to control Trump. The establishment can't control Trump. Trump can't even control Trump. And it's certainly the alt-right can't control Trump. Nobody controls Trump, right? Despite trying. But look, there's been no wall built, right? No legislative accomplishments have happened. No trade war with China. So here's all the stuff that Bannon was actually there to try to push Trump to do. He didn't do. So, but now the establishment, since they've taken over the White House, well, Bannon's going to war against it. And he has told people close to him that he's actually much better off outside the White House than he is in it. And he feels that the administration is a failing and a sinking ship. Now, he would be correct on that. It is a sinking ship. You know why? Because it's Donald Trump. And so, Breitbart, which is a publication that Bannon went back to being CEO of, well, they're preparing for one last torpedo volley to try to take the ship down. This is from Breitbart editor Joe Pollack, who wrote on Friday, quote, "This may turn out to be the beginning of the end for the Trump administration. That moment, the moment that Donald Trump became Arnold Schwarzenegger." Damn. Now, if you were to ask me what this means, I would say the administration, they're already fucked without the help of Breitbart. But boy, add in the Breitbart now turning against them, well, you've got some problems. And I'm not saying this from the criticism angle either. I mean, we can't forget that Robert and Rebecca Mercer are essentially Bannon allies that gave huge amounts of money to the Trump administration. They were the biggest funder to Donald Trump in the election cycle. So here we go, man. We've got the main money people that are probably going to pull out. That's in serious, serious jeopardy. That's assuming, of course, Donald Trump makes it to 2020. Now, you had two of Bannon's friends that told The Atlantic that Bannon had recently met with Robert Mercer this week in New York while Trump was still in town. He said, quote, first, he's going to figure out things with Bob and Becca. Breitbart's certainly the likely landing spot. This ally also said that Bannon may also move to a Mercer-funded outside group or even start a new one. That new one, that's probably going to be used to attack Trump. Another friend of Bannon said, why would he help them from the outside at this point, run the outside group, and then Jared Kushner takes credit? Two sources close to Bannon also said that he has for some time complained about Kushner being an issue in the Russia investigation. One of the sources said Bannon regards Kushner as, quote, the weak link in the White House when it comes to the investigation. Another source close to Bannon said that he remains loyal to Donald Trump himself, so I'm sure some of you might be wondering that. But when Steve feels the Trump administration is wrong, will he point to the people he has the inside knowledge about who are pushing for certain policies? I assume he will. And I would say that's a fair assumption. Remember, this is Steve Bannon. He doesn't play nice. He doesn't mince words. And now that he's back at Breitbart and he's gunning for certain members of the administration, for example, H.R. McMaster, Jared Kushner, which, oh man, Jared Kushner is Ivanka's husband, so that he's very, very close to the family. Here we go. Watch out. This whole thing is not going to be pretty. It's going to get very ugly. It's going to get very ugly very fast. Okay. Let me take a quick break here, and we'll be back. We've got more show for you guys today. Stay right here, TYT Nation, and I'll be right back. Alright, back around the nation here, TYT Nation. I'm going to see if I have any hashtag TYT Nation tweets here to read. Let me check that real quick. I don't see any super chats, so, but if you want to use that, that's also a way to get a hold of the show. Alright. Let's see. Alright. None of that, so let's get into the stories. We've got more. Now, since President Trump took the White House at the beginning of the year, a slow stream of articles has come out from internal sources showing just how exactly, or just exactly what it's like to work in the Trump White House. And boy, is it not good. It turns out that a lot of the people working in the White House have essentially turned into babysitters. So what I want to do is I want to run down a lot of what these inside sources have said about the president since he took office. Now, these are, of course, these are internal leaks, right, from various White House staffers and aides speaking to the press on the condition of anonymity. Now, these, different stories, these pieces that I'm going to pick out were also posted by Daniel Dresger. Now, he put them all into tweet form to point out how the president's staff literally treats him like a toddler, like a little baby. Now, this is awesome. Now, this first one, this is from a Washington Post article from back in April. He said Trump turns on the television almost as soon as he wakes. So it's talking about his TV habits. Then checks in periodically throughout the day in the small dining room off the Oval Office, and continues late into the evening when he's back in his private residence. Once he goes upstairs, there's no managing him. And basically, when they're saying that a lot of advisors had to try to stop him from watching so much TV. That's sort of like how somebody would try to manage their kids, but they couldn't manage his off time. They're like, well, we try to fill his itinerary as much as possible, and that's actually later on. I've got a quote on that. So that we can stop him from doing stupid things and saying stupid things, right? Now, look, them trying to police his TV time kind of reminds me of when I was a kid. My mom used to shut off the TV and say, okay, you need to go outside. You need to get some air, right? You need to go get some exercise. Go run around. Do something. They have to literally do that with Trump, okay? And look, one of the reasons is so he doesn't get angry at all the negative news stories. Because there are other reports where he would literally yell at the TV when there's a negative report. Now, I've got more. This was from an article in Politico at the end of April that explains how they get Trump prepared for certain things, right? They educate him. Quote, you don't walk in with a traditional presentation, like a binder or PowerPoint. He doesn't care. He doesn't consume information that way, said one senior administration official. You go in and tell him the pros and cons and what the media coverage is going to be like. Now, that's, of course, important. They're talking about, well, how's the press going to cover this? Like, how's it going to cover you? This is how they'll cover you. He'll make a decision based on what the press says, especially of Fox News. Was Fox News going to say it's favorable? Great. Oh, I'm going to do that then. Are you sure that's wise? Yes, absolutely wise. He's in it for TV. He's a TV guy. That's all he cares about. Am I going to get good, favorable press and good ratings? Awesome. And if it's not favorable press, it's fake news. And we should immediately discard it. Now, he also says, downplaying the downside of risk of a decision can win out in the short term. But the risk is the presidential dressing down, delivered in a yell. So he's basically throwing a fit like a little baby. You don't want to be the person who sold him on something that turned out to be a bad idea. So, I'm pretty sure people will be afraid to give him any advice. Because if it's not good advice, or if it doesn't work out in the end, well, he'll throw a fit, he'll yell at you, like a child. Now, they go on to talk about, again, his TV habits, and this is from articles later on. Advisors have tried to curtail Trump's idle hours, hoping to prevent him from watching cable news or calling old friends and then tweeting about it. And there's a story where he was like, why can't I call Michael Flynn? I want to talk to Michael Flynn. No, you're not supposed to call this guy. Don't call him. The aides are like, don't do it. You're going to get yourself in trouble. He is a member of an active investigation. Don't call him, but why can't I call him? And then to keep him away from, of course, the TV. Now, that, of course, only works during the workday, though Trump's evenings and weekends have largely remained his own. And that's, of course, when you see him 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. doing a tweet storm of ridiculous things. Now, another aide said, it's not like the White House doesn't have a plan to fill his time productively, but at the end of the day, he is in charge of his schedule. He does not like being managed. Again, just like a child, you have to have somebody to fill his schedule so he doesn't get bored and do something destructive. Here's another, and this time it deals with his temper. Now, this is from an article in Politico written in May about Trump trying to deal with another man baby, and that would be Kim Jong-un. It said White House officials said privately there was no broader strategy behind the interviews. GOP strategists and Capitol Hill aides were puzzled by it all. I have no idea what they view as a successful media hit. So here's Trump going around and giving ridiculous interviews. One GOP consultant with close ties to the administration said, he just seemed to go crazy today. Here's another one from the Wall Street Journal. According to one House GOP aide, Mr. Trump's public pronouncements create an unnecessary amount of drama and raise expectations in an unhelpful way. It's the new world we're living in. Most people kind of expect him to be unpredictable, so you just operate with what you can control. But it leads to a bunch of pressure that doesn't need to be there. There's more. Now this is from Axios, who put together even more instances of Trump's aides treating him as if he was a toddler. He said aides know when Trump responds best to visuals. Typically, when someone wants to sell them on something, they use props. According to Jonathan Swan, the president likes maps. He likes maps and pretty graphics. Reince Priebus, when he was working there, had tried to stop Trump's many visits with random aides, family and friends, and reporters to the White House, which visually annoys the chief of staff, by filling up his schedule with ceremonial events, according to New York Times. Priebus has been busy making room in Trump's schedule to do whatever he wants, as New York Times puts it. He has reduced the pace of public events, and like a Montessori teacher, modulates structured work time with the slack periods Mr. Trump craves. Staffers also include positive local news clippings in Trump's morning briefings instead of the possibly more negative headlines from a national paper, they told the Post. And finally, a confidant told Politico, if you're an advisor to him, your job is to help him at the margins, to talk him out of doing crazy things. And look, I'll have a link in the description to the article that posts all of these, because that's just scratching the surface. I could go for the next half hour reading all these instances of where White House aides, people inside the White House, this isn't coming from left-wingers, this is coming from insiders, okay? People inside the White House that work for the administration and even top allies that are that are leaking to the press or that have talked to the press and have said, yeah, this is how we have to deal with Trump. When he was preparing for the NATO trip, for example, they had to give him intel in tweet-size lengths, 140 characters, just to prepare him. They have to pepper his name throughout different intel briefings so that he stays interested. We're dealing with a child. This is not fake news. This is what he's like. This is a 70-year-old man-child with zero attention span. He has no idea what nuance is. He's not interested in policy discussion. And he essentially spends his days either golfing or watching TV unless he's forced into actually working. This is what you guys voted for, Republicans. And look, it's not all the Republicans' fault. Obviously, this is also what happens when you run a corporate establishment politician against someone who knows how to lie about change. So they ran Hillary Clinton. The Democrats did. And she lost to this man-child. I mean, look, he had the benefit of running against an incredibly unpopular establishment politician who was the face of that establishment. And, ironically, and you don't hear about this enough, the Pied Piper strategy. They raised him up, right? So their strategy was to, during the primary, because Hillary Clinton was so incredibly unpopular, and there weren't a lot of people who wanted to vote for her, they said, okay, well, let's take one of these crazy Republicans and let's elevate him up. Let's bring him up. Let's give him all sorts of attention in the news media so that we can run against one of those and win. Well, we all know how that turned out. But look, the whole point of this is to show, again, how not just how Donald Trump is a man-child, we know that, but how he's also dangerously incompetent. And at the end of the day, is just a sad, sad baby. We've got to get him out. We've got to get him out. Okay. Let's go to the next story here. As you all know, the Secret Service has one mandate: protect the president and protect the family wherever they go. It's fairly straightforward. That should be the end of the story. However, due to the President Trump, him and his family's habits, it turns out the Secret Service, in doing their duty, has actually run out of money. Now, this is amazing. This is according to USA Today. The Secret Service can no longer afford to pay the hundreds of agents it needs to carry out an expanded protective mission. Now, why is that? How did they run out of money? What did the Trumps do? Well, apparently, this is partly due to the sheer size of the president's family and efforts necessary to secure their multiple residents up and down the East Coast. So let me explain here. Now, they write that the agency has faced a crushing workload since the height of the election season and has not relented in the first 7 months of the administration. Now, agents must protect Trump, and that's obvious. That's their job, right? Who has traveled almost every weekend to his properties in Florida, New Jersey, and Virginia, as well as his adult children, whose business trips and vacations have taken them across the country and overseas. So, look, I understand they have a job to do, right? And it's not their fault. And I'm not even arguing that the president shouldn't be protected by the Secret Service. I think the thing that frustrates me the most about this is actually not only the amount of vacation that Trump is taking, to his own properties, by the way, but also his children, who are using this money for business trips. Now, let me explain. Okay. Now, one of the reasons for so much expense is how many people are actually needing Secret Service protection. Now, under Trump, 42 people now have protection. That's a number that includes 18 members of his family, and that's actually up from 31 during the Obama administration. Now, for a second, I want to talk about the Obama administration. See, during President Obama's administration, you would hear Fox News, you would hear Donald Trump complaining about, oh my God, Obama taking another vacation, going golfing again, spending that taxpayer money. Look at the Secret Service. Secret Service has got to go and protect him. That's taxpayer money. That's taxpayer money. Do you hear that anymore? No, not at all. And in fact, Donald Trump has taken more vacation days and has golfed way more than President Obama had within his first 7 months. Within his first 7 months, President Trump has golfed way more than President Obama has in the first 4 years. That's amazing. And also super disastrous and super, super expensive. Okay. And of course, this has caused lots and lots of problems. Already over 1,000 agents have hit their salary and overtime caps. And unfortunately, it's not going to get any better any soon. Now, the USA Today says overwork and constant travel have also been been driving a recent exodus from the Secret Service ranks. So now they're quitting. They're like, well, you can't afford to pay me anymore. Yes, we're working our asses off. We're doing all this travel. We're trying to protect the president. That's our job, but we're not even getting paid for it. So screw you. We're done. And look, without congressional intervention to provide additional funding, the service will not be able to pay agents for work they have already done. They say the crunch is so serious that the director has begun discussions with lawmakers to raise the combined salary and overtime cap for agents from $160,000 per year to $187,000 for at least the duration of Trump's first term. But even if such a proposal were approved, about 130 veteran agents would not be fully compensated for hundreds of hours already amassed, according to agencies. So, now this is funny, because Trump has a history of running up debts and then stiffing people. Imagine if he stiffs the Secret Service. In fact, they already are. There are agents that are not getting paid and that are not going to get paid. He's already stiffing the Secret Service. And look, they're already out of money. Now, let me break down why it's been so expensive. I keep mentioning a couple of things that aren't quite specific, so let's get into the specifics. Since his inauguration, Trump has taken 7 trips to Mar-a-Lago, traveled to his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club 5 times, and returned to Trump Tower and Manhattan at least once. Trump's frequent visits to his, what he calls the Winter White House and the Summer White House, are challenging for the agency, which must maintain a regular security infrastructure at each, while still allowing access to paying members and guests. Always costly in manpower and equipment, the president's jaunts to Mar-a-Lago are estimated to cost $3 million each, based on a General Accounting Office estimate for similar travel by former President Barack Obama. The Secret Service has also spent $60,000 on golf cart rentals this year alone to protect Trump at both Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster. Not only that, but you also had the issue where Melania Trump, for a while, was not living at the White House. She was actually still living in Trump Tower, and she needed a separate security detail until June. And of course, she has a full-time security detail. Now, some of the family does not have a full-time security detail. They have a part-time if they go on trips. Now, those people without a full security detail, I think, are some of the other members of the family. For example, Donald Jr. and Eric. Now, speaking of them, this is probably the most egregious part. Trump's other sons, Trump Organization executives Donald Jr. and Eric, based in New York, are also covered by security details, including when they travel frequently to promote Trump-branded properties in other countries. Well, no, well, wait a minute here. So Donald and Donald Jr. and Eric, they go and do Trump property detail or trips, right? So they go and do these trips, and they use these security details that are taxpayer funded. But why are we paying for that? That's to help their businesses. We're literally paying our tax money to subsidize their business trips. That's insane. That's insane. Now, here's a couple examples of that. Earlier this year, Eric Trump's business travel to Uruguay cost the Secret Service nearly $100,000 just for hotel rooms. Other trips included the United Kingdom and the Dominican Republic. In February, both sons and their security details traveled to Vancouver, British Columbia, for the opening of a new Trump hotel there, and to Dubai to officially open a Trump International Golf Club. Why in the hell are we paying for Eric and Donald Jr., to push their own business interests, to go to different Trump properties? That's what we're paying for. Look, I can understand vacations. I can understand going to different important events like summits. But what we're doing is that we're paying for their kids to do business deals that don't benefit America. They benefit us, or they benefit them. Okay? They don't benefit us. If they want protection on those trips, they need to pay for it themselves. It's ludicrous that we end up paying the bill for something that's not going to benefit our country. And speaking of vacation, we have more. In March, security details accompanies part of the family, including Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, on a skiing vacation in Aspen, Colorado. Even Tiffany Trump, yes, Tiffany, took vacations with her boyfriend to international locales such as Germany and Hungary, which also require Secret Service protection. All of this is why the Secret Service is now bankrupt. Now, do you hear Fox News complaining about this? Again, it's funny, when Obama took a vacation, Fox News was all over it. Oh my God, the money, it's so expensive. He's wasting all this taxpayer money. They're flying on Air Force One. They got all the Secret Service. We're going broke. We're going broke. And yet when Trump does it, and does it far more often, and spends more taxpayer money on it, including for his kids to make business deals, where's Fox News? What are they saying about it? They're not saying anything about it. You're hearing not even a peep. They never cared about it. It was all politics. It's all political. And look, Trump, who also criticized President Obama for doing travel, for going on trips, for going golfing, he doesn't care either. all political. That should show you right there what kind of person Trump truly is and what kind of station Fox News is. Though, of course, I think we already know by now. All right. One more story for you guys, and then we'll head out of here. Not too important, but I thought we'd have a little bit of fun. Now, Louise Linton is the wife of Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin. Now, she was not happy when Jenny Miller, a mother of three from Portland, called her out for her massive amount of privilege. Now, she, of course, responded to this woman for being poor, for having less money than she does. Now, that is, of course, super classy. Now, this whole thing began when Miss Linton posted a photograph of herself on Instagram. Now, that picture, of course, as you can see in the corner here, basically had her disembarking from a military jet with lots of course, government markings. Now, she went on that trip, she went on that plane with her husband to Kentucky to meet the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. Now, okay, look, she's going on that plane, and she's got a trip that's being paid for, obviously by taxpayer money, right? Now, she posted this on Instagram, and she put the hashtags, great day trip to Kentucky, Roland Moray, Hermes Scarf, Tom Ford, and Valentino. Now, look, I have no idea what those things are. I had to read up on it, okay? Apparently, that is some very expensive wardrobe. Well, that's weird. Now, look, anybody who knows me personally knows I am a super cheap person. I'm the kind of guy who will not pay more than $20 for a pair of jeans. Okay? That's me. Now, it doesn't bother me when people pay more. I just think, but you paid $150 for a t-shirt? What are you, stupid? That's ridiculous. Hey, man, okay, look, I'm not the one buying it. That's your money. You do what you want. Super cheap, right? However, Miss Miller, who saw this, again, this is that mother of three from Portland. She said, she said, glad we could pay for your little getaway, hashtag deplorable. So basically saying, so you go on this plane and you go on this trip, that's taxpayer funded, and then you post this picture of you with your lavish, expensive clothes. Well, I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to leave a nasty comment, and that's fine, right? I know a bit about people who make nasty comments. Believe me. Who cares? But apparently, Miss Linton did care. She cared a lot. You see, instead of ignoring her, Linton, whose account had been public before this happened, who later then changed her Instagram account to private, said, "Aw, did you think this was a personal trip? Adorable. Do you think the U.S. government paid for our honeymoon or personal travel? Have you given more to the economy than me and my husband, either as an individual earner or in taxes or in self-sacrifice to your country? Oh my God, the sacrifice! We sacrifice so much! How dare you criticize me, you pleb?" We're talking about self-sacrifice here. That's amazing. Now, Miss Linton said, "I'm pretty sure we paid more taxes towards our day trip than you did. Pretty sure the amount we sacrificed per year is a lot more than you're willing to sacrifice if the choice was yours." Sacrifice. She keeps talking about sacrifice. I don't think she understands quite what that means. First of all, taxes, they're not a sacrifice. They're literally how we pay for things in the country so that we all benefit. So look at that framing, right? So to her, paying her taxes is a noble sacrifice. Oh, see, I'm rich and I shouldn't have to pay these taxes, but since I do it out of the goodness of my heart because I'm sacrificing to help you. Oh, how noble are you, Miss Linton? Look, odds are she pays a lower tax rate than a secretary, as many wealthy people often do. I don't know that for certain. I haven't seen her tax returns. But my guess is that due to the various loopholes and tax deductions that she could probably take, my guess is that she might pay a lower tax rate. Now, I don't know that for certain. Maybe she does pay a higher tax rate. Maybe she does pay the full 39%. I don't know. All I can do is I can speculate, right? But calling it a sacrifice, really? Okay, man. Hey, man, you actually use the same roads that Miss Miller also pays for her taxes. Just saying. It's for the public benefit. Now, further on, she goes on to say, and this is probably the best part, right? She goes on to say, you're adorably out of touch. Out of touch. Okay, well, let's talk about how Louise Linton, how she is not out of touch, how she's totally in touch with the working class, as she has recently posted with diamonds that she wore at a June wedding for a Town and Country magazine spread. And by the way, she is also an actress. Out of touch. Totally out of touch. Now, Ms. Miller, who was contacted by the Washington Post for a telephone interview, said she was taken back by Ms. Linton's words. Quote, if she hadn't made her account private, I would have written back with a very snide Marie Antoinette joke. Which would have been great. Let her eat cake. Let them all eat cake. Now, Miller also said, I think my post was just 5 or 6 words, and she had to go on basically a rant about it to make herself look more important and look smarter, better, richer, all those things. She also said she regretted letting Miss Linton get under her skin. Miller could not understand why Linton highlighted her brand labels on a trip to Kentucky, a state with a high poverty rate. Well, again, that's because she is out of touch. And look, when you're an actress or a model, you're on social media, I can kind of understand why. Your life becomes about advertising. You become a walking commercial. Unfortunately, that happens to be the system that we're living in. Okay? You are a giant commercial. And again, the system. Now, the issue here, though, is the snide condescension that we're getting. And the issue of punching down. Like, you're going to have people make ridiculous comments, snide comments, which I don't think so. I don't think that's the case in this case. I think it is perfectly warranted. But it's called being in the public, right? These comments are something that public figures have to deal with. Being sort of a public figure myself, I can understand. And it's not like Ms. Miller did not have a point with her commentary. The government did pay for that trip. Now, since they've gotten some backlash, the Treasury Department, a spokesperson had said, well, the Mnuchins, since they got their shit called out, they actually did reimburse the government for that trip. Okay, good. Public pressure. It works, right? They also said, interestingly enough, that Ms. Linton was not compensated by any of the labels she promoted with those hashtags. So I guess the important question here, right, is that should people like Linton be allowed to respond to criticism without getting more criticism? That's an interesting question. Now, obviously, I just criticized her, so I'm going to say no. I think she is fair game, especially since you're a public figure. If you're in the public sphere, I'm sorry, you're going to get criticism, whether you like it or not. And not only, being a public figure, but a public figure that's in politics and who also uses taxpayer money to go on trips. I think that's a fair game. Now, people do have a right to criticize you and then to criticize your response. Now, I know some people are like, but you got to be nice. Decorum, right? I don't care about decorum. I don't care about being nice. I think you should be allowed to criticize people for being out of touch. And I also think it's fair to defend, for someone to defend themselves about that criticism. That's what social media is about. Welcome to the internet. So, no. Welcome to social media. Welcome to Instagram. And welcome to politics, where anybody can say anything and be criticized for it. If you can't handle it, maybe you shouldn't be on social media. Okay. That was interesting. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Thank you for watching the whole show. For liking and sharing this video. Don't forget to do that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/TYTNation. That's super, super important. If you want to help us out, You go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/TYTNation. Follow us on our various social media. We got a Facebook page. We got a Twitter. Hashtag TYTNation. You can also use that. All that stuff. So that's different ways that you can get in touch with the show. And you can also send us stories that you think are interesting, and you think that, if you want to get my opinion on it, if you want me to cover it, I'm always open to those suggestions. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Love you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same place, right here. 3 p.m. Eastern, TYT Nation. Remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.